Hey everybody, welcome back to Visual Novel Book Club. I'm your pal Slowbeef with, of course, my good friend Oren Ronan.
Good evening.
My good friend Jim.
Hey everybody.
My good friend Rosella.
Hello.
And unfortunately, again, that's it.
Yeah.
We've cut some of the dead weight from this pot. No, I'm kidding. Pull is under the weather again. Turbo is out. So
Before we begin, today, as we record this, is the 20th anniversary of Ace Attorney. So yay.
Yay!
Wow.
Well, it is for me. For you guys, it's a couple of hours away still. But since we're talking about the 20th anniversary of the GBA Japanese release of Ace Attorney 1, then I count and you don't.
No, that's fair.
I think it's called Gaikakuten Saibon.
Something like that, yes.
Something like that. Look, this is a long one, so I think we should probably get going on it. So we're halfway through trial 5, you know. What the heck happened here? We're in recess officially, right? I think while we wait for the music box to be retrieved. Do I have that right?
No, we're waiting for the summoning, Egbert Benedict, as we know him at this point.
Right, that's right. Yeah. And, Gina's like, we're kind of like, this is going well. And Gina's like, nah, there's a picture of me holding the gun. This is pretty damning. I don't think this is going to go well for me still. So we do convince you to tell us what really happened.
Which is, I feel like, a first in Ace Attorney. Like, us actually saying, hey, this evidence is kind of damning. Can you, explain it? And then our client actually does.
Yeah, right?
This never happens.
So, she snuck in. She got caught. She snuck in to find out if it's true about home selling the story, I guess, from without Iris knowing. She snuck in. She got caught. She grabbed the gun. Went into and then they go into the storeroom. Her and Windibank. The Skulkin brothers arrive. 2 shots go off.
Yeah. She didn't actually intend to use the gun. She was just surprised and grabbed it. But then Windibank actually calmed her down and when she told him she just wanted to see if the manuscript is there, then he actually lets her in.
Right.
Yeah.
But then she feels dizzy and she doesn't remember anything. But she also says she saw Benedict there.
No, she doesn't. She was in the storeroom. They heard a noise from outside. Windibank went to see what it is with his gun. And then she heard 2 gunshots. And Windibank,
he just falls down right in front of her.
I have in my notes that she said she saw.
Then she gets dizzy.
Yeah, she locks the door like we thought she did.
Mm-hmm.
And takes the gun but gets dizzy and faints.
So, she's still surprised. We still believe in her, and she's surprised. But we tell her about the first case of the game, how we were actually accused of a crime we didn't commit, and Kazuma believed in us. And maybe that's what you got to do when you're a good lawyer, etc., etc. So basically, the trial starts again, and the judge decides he can't accept Sherlock Holmes's blood coloring invention as evidence, since it's not, of course, accepted science because you didn't show anybody to it or anything like that,
It hasn't been peer reviewed. It's just not appropriate.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I guess to be fair, right?
Yeah, I mean, Ben Zieks pointed out in the last, in the previous episode, that you can't. Maybe there is another person with green blood out there. You can't justify that. You don't have this whole case study of all these different the testings of people's blood.
What if it totally didn't work? It's complete bunkum and it's just random, but it just happened to kind of work out in this case,
Yeah.
But at any rate, Benedict arrives, but he's here and he identifies himself as Ashley Graydon, which is again, I think we discussed this. It's kind of once he said that, I'm like, that's an alias, and then it's oh no, wait, right, Ace Attorney,
Yeah, this is not an alias. This is actually his name.
Right, yeah, exactly. We'll find that, yeah. So, and what I really enjoyed is he has this big top hat, and he arrives, and he, flings it in our direction. And they've done this kind of, physical bit, gag in Phoenix Wright games, but I really like in this one, because, Naruto is just holding this big hat. What do I do with this, which is pretty great. Let's see here. Sorry, I looked away. Now I'm looking through my notes again. So Benedict there. Charles. Oh yeah. So during testimony, Skulkin gets worried a bit that Graydon's arm is gonna hurt, because right now it's that thing where we're interviewing this, we're testifying, we're cross-examining the Skulkin brothers and Graydon. And I think Gregson's still at this point too, right? Yeah. So
Gregson is always there to try this trial. He's never not to understand.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the first thing that happened is that Graydon refuses to admit that we actually met him before.
Right.
But we of course know that he was at the shop. And Gregson doesn't help it as well, because he was also there. This says he doesn't have anything to do with the pawnbroker at all. And then Gregson, that's right, because Gregson does the hold on a second here thing, and you can pursue him. And we can kind of prove it with the disc, right? And we say it's just there's a blood stain here, and we can't use the coloring to prove it's his, but we can say well, I want to examine your thumb and see if you hurt yourself on this disc, because it's got all these sharp little bumps on it for presumably music box reasons. Yeah,
because we asked him to examine his arm, because it's hey, you got shot, right? He's I have no idea what you're talking about, and I have no intention of telling you, or consenting to a search. It's well, okay, we can't really prove it, but we can examine your thumb, right? That's a lot less invasive.
Mm-hmm. So we get new testimony about the disc, and we also we also get to give it to Van Zieks, where we get to tell him sorry, my learned friend, but, which I was very happy about. So we get our little dig at him, which let's see here. We show that he did have reason to return to the pawnbroker at the second ticket, but Zieks can prove that no box was taken. Actually, it's in one of the two photos of the shelves. Two of the photos of the shelves, actually. So, what happens is you have to do the thing where you cross your eyes, and again, that they don't actually have you. You don't have to do it on PlayStation 5 or 4, right? Really, but I'm gonna say that they do it they give you the two pictures, and I did cross my eyes, and I was able to see.
Yep, me too.
What they were having before the game explicitly tells you.
And then the game is nice. It asks you if you could figure it out on your own, but if you didn't, then you can use the stereoscope, which on the 3DS meant that they showed you the picture in 3D, and on the new consoles it just highlights the floating object.
Yeah.
So good stuff, yeah.
But I could also just see it, and I chose not to use the stereoscope, and I just pointed out the box. Right.
So the box was moved. We can see on the shelves in the lower right, which is let's see here. The box moves, and you have to say does this change anything? It's that changes everything. And Zeke says, no, it doesn't. Nothing here worth stealing. And we have to wait. Unfortunately, they've sent out for the box, and it's going to arrive, and we're worried about when it does, it's going to somehow still implicate Gina. So we've decided to get her on the stand now to try to learn something.
Yeah.
And Van Zieks very much presses on this. He knows that Gina lied, and he knows that we know that Gina lied, and he's you're really sure that you want to have her testify, despite the effects that this is going to have on her credibility and your credibility, and just really that's what you think is a good idea? And we're absolutely, this is what we're doing. He's all right.
I said I'm going all in. So, yep.
Yeah. And I like the fact that this game doesn't throw away the fact that she perjured herself and a guilty man went free. It's a very big deal, and the game highlights it on multiple occasions.
Though we're still letting the other thugs off pretty easy for perjuring themselves repeatedly after insisting that they weren't.
Yeah, that's true.
Because maybe perjury, if the right person is caught eventually, is fine.
Right. It all comes out in the wash.
It's not perjury if you correct yourself during the same trial. I guess, in this universe.
Right. You get a chance to unperjure.
If you get the fifth chance, no, this time you really got to tell the truth.
So we asked Gina to tell court like what really happened that night, and she does, and that she...
Yeah, it takes a little convincing, but then she actually seems to trust us this time.
Yeah.
That we know what we're doing.
Right. So basically she tells everybody what really happened, like the deal that McGilded gave her, you know, like that was like, she's gonna, you know, I'll give you, it was like 10 guineas now, and then, you know, go to the pawnbroker later, all that fun stuff.
But like, while this is happening, you can see, like, just, you know, we're looking at Gina, and you can see on the right side of the screen, like, Graydon has his back to us, and it's like,
oh yeah,
what? Like, what are you doing, my dude? Like, you are so disrespectful to our client. You're not even gonna like watch her give testimony. But you can actually move over, even though like it doesn't have the exclamation point, like, like so someone said something, you can pursue it. You can still like tab over to see that like Graydon and Gregson are both facing away and like whispering to each other. It's like, what are y'all doing?
This was kind of surprising to me, you know, like I wasn't really sure where they were going with this, the game that is, you know. So
and you have to do this, right?
Yeah, it's necessary.
Yeah.
And like you press the rest of her testimony, and basically like what's happening is like the court is outraged that you know, Gina helped McGilded get away with the murder when she knew something, and they think we're in on it, like the lawyer, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, in order to proceed here, you have to press everything, and then you also have to pursue the Graydon and Gregson, even though the game doesn't prompt you to do it.
Yep.
You just yell their names very loudly, and they're like, "What? We weren't doing anything."
Yeah, it looks like they're I thought they were negotiating or something. Or does the game say that?
I think it does. Yeah, it says you figure out that they're negotiating something, and then you basically have to interrupt that negotiation to get to move on, because you have to stop them from finalizing their negotiation.
Right.
Well, I think they did finalize the negotiations. I think.
Yeah, they did anyway, but
yeah, you have to do it just so the game knows that you've noticed that.
Yeah, because it'll be a thing.
This is also when Gina tries to introduce her catchphrase of "thinking ain't no crime." I don't know why. She just decided she needed a catchphrase, maybe to make herself more, more likable to the jury.
So, but then the box has arrived, and we are on to part 4 of the trial. And what happens then? Well, you know, inside there's machinery, and I write in parentheses music box. Come on, you know, because
music box.
Yeah,
right. Because it's one of those things where they dance around it, like, what could this be? You know,
this little box that these discs are certainly associated with.
So I think Iris mentions like, yeah, it looks like a music box, or somehow we do figure it, and we're like, well, let's play the disc on it. And Gregson's like, oh, hold on a sec, we're not doing that, we're not playing that. And Van Zieks is like, we are doing that, and we are playing that. And you know, Gregson's really nervous about this for some reason. What do you call it? But we play it, and it's like, I wrote, it's very clearly Morse code, but no one realizes, although I'm technically wrong, because it's like just playing like beep 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 whatever, you know. But at any rate, everyone's like, you know, what's going on here? So Graydon starts laughing, and he's like, this thing's broken. We get the choice, and we say, is this relevant? You know, and we say, of course this is relevant. That's we being, of course, Naruhodo, I mean. And Zieks is like, all right, I want you to elaborate on that. And we say, well, it's not supposed to be music, which Graydon then stops laughing.
Yeah, Iris lets us know that she looked at it, and it's not actually broken. It has like a comb that like only plays one tone.
Yeah, like all the teeth are the same length, so no matter which one gets plucked, it's always going to be the same pitch.
So now, but then finally, the judge and Van Zieks demand to know what this is, and we can tell them with evidence, which is the newspaper story. And Juror 5 confirms that this might be government secrets in Morse code, which would make this high treason, punishable by death. Holy shit! And so Grayson denies this, of course, and then Zieks goes, well, then by all means, counter the charges, sir. And demands testimony, and Graydon very calmly agrees. He goes, yeah, okay, well, I'll testify about it. You got it. So cool as a cucumber, this guy. But wait, then Nash and Ringo come back, and they say, hang on, we want to testify too. Like, we're thieves, but we're, you know, we're not traitors. We had no idea this was part of it. And they confess, like, look, he told us to break in, and Graydon's like, no, absolutely not, So the music box is entered into evidence, and then if you examine it in the court record, which I'm sure we all did, there's a button on the other side that you can press, you can push it, and there's, like, another side to it, you know what I mean? Like, more machinery on the other side that you can open up, so you could play, like, 2 discs, theoretically. Again, the game's not telling you this there, but...
Yeah, before we do that, we also... Graydon tries to claim that he didn't have access to this kind of information, but then juror number 5 keeps because she works with him. He keeps saying that no, I couldn't have done it, and she says yes, you could. You did have access.
It's like he's the most highest ranking person at the entire company, and he has access to all these important meetings with these important people.
Yeah, and she's like one of the best code breakers she knows, and it's like she just keeps giving him undermining his testimony over and over again.
Oh yeah, because he claims well, obviously if it were military or important communications, it would be encoded, so I could never understand it. And yeah, it's like, oh, he's the best code breaker in the entire company, and he's so wonderful. Like her eyes are sparkling as she's talking about him.
So. Now in testimony, one of the things we discover is also that apparently the Skulkins and Graydon go way back. And if we press on that further and talk about the old business they had set up, which I didn't write down the notes of that, but
it was Milverton and Skulkins Milk Run was the name of the business.
Right. It was surprisingly legitimate, I think is what we say.
Yeah, no, it's like what's the scheme? It's like we deliver fresh milk to people who live in our area.
Okay.
But yeah, their definition of scheme is a lot.
It makes them money, I guess. If that's your definition of a scheme, it passes that.
Sure.
Yeah, I like the business name in Japanese. I thought was funny because it translates something like Milverton and what's the name in English? Skulkin?
Skulkin.
Yeah,
Milverton Skulkin's Dairy Industries, which is a much more pretentious name than Milk Run.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So, but one of the things is that then we discover why is it Milverton? And because that was Graydon's name. And apparently that was his original given name, but he goes by Ashley Graydon.
Yeah, it was his dad's name, but the parents divorced, and he took his mother's name after that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, he denies it at first, but Zieks is actually as a telegraph operator, you had to give a lot of information that we had to verify. So we can check really quick. So it's fine. My name's Milverton, so what? And we noticed that in the old case notes, actually, the name Milverton shows up because it's thrice fired Mason's last name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he was claiming, Graydon, was claiming to have absolutely no connection to McGilded, no connection to the disc, no connection to anything. So it's you can't possibly pin this on me because I don't even know the victim in that case. And it's you will share a last name.
Yeah, it's that's your dad.
That's your dad.
So what next? So basically, yeah, he's okay, well, fine, but prove the following. No, so we accuse him of working with his father, Mason, to sell government secrets to McGilded encoded in Morse code on 2 separate discs. Also, he starts bleeding through his sleeve, which I don't know if we point that out just yet, but it is happening.
Right, because I think that the one Skulkin had that's why he had sort of mentioned it before, hey, if you keep making all these dramatic gestures, you're going to bleed, and he does. At some point, it starts bleeding through his coat, which now has proven the fact that he was shot.
And he still keeps making these dramatic poses, though.
Yeah.
He can't stop style.
No, you cannot. We accuse him of shooting Windibank, and but then he admits, okay, he was there, and he witnessed all of it. But then he testifies, and he mentions that there's blood that splattered all over the coat.
Yeah, so now what he testifying is that he actually saw the murder happen. And that he also didn't have his own gun, but, he managed to pick up the shooting gun afterwards.
Yeah, I think his claim is that Gina had her own gun, and that explains the existence of the third gun.
Yeah.
And yeah, his testimony is basically just like, it's like, no, I did get shot. That happened. And then he went into the back room and I watched through the peephole in the door. I watched Gina shoot him in the back, and then she threw the gun out through the front door. And then I took that gun and left because, free gun.
Yeah, hey, free gun, exactly.
And I also saw like blood splatter all over a black coat, and if you go and check that coat, you'll find it.
Right, and that'll be proof positive that my testimony is correct, is because Gina's black coat is going to have blood spatter all over it.
Which sucks for us because actually we know that that's true, that there is blood spatter all over her coat because we did it. And even worse for us is Van Zieks mentions we have there. By the way, there's a German technique we have to identify blood. And by the way, people know about this one. It's not just Sherlock Holmes's brand of like blood identification. So we can find that out.
Well, this is just supposed to let you know if something is blood or not like change its color and figure out whose blood is it.
Yeah. This is like laminol or luminol, basically.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if we specified, but when he saw the crime occur, this was through the peephole in the door, which is key. Is going to come up later.
Yes, that's right. He saw it through the peephole in the door.
For the record, he doesn't ever say the word luminol, but apparently luminol was first synthesized in Germany in 1902, so that is roughly like correct.
Oh wow.
But the funny thing is they didn't name it luminol until 1934. So I guess that's why he doesn't say it. He's like, yeah, no, there's some German compound that can identify whether or not something is blood, which is, roughly where they were as far as technology at the time.
Well, it's German, so it's probably got like 100 syllables or something. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe he was just afraid to say it like in court because then he was just going to look like a doofus.
Right, yeah. I would even make a joke right now on what that could be. Like, there's Schlossen, Legen, but then I would sound really ridiculous, and I don't want to do that. So, let's see here. So, Windibank, we got that. We pressed him on. Oh, yeah. If he says Windibank ran in, saw her shoot him, and then she threw the gun out of the room. We're like, why would she throw the gun out of the room? It's like, hell if I know, but she did.
Also, why would you pick it up and leave with it? He's like, it's what I did.
Yeah. And that's right. Free gun. Exactly. So, but what's interesting is, again, we see Gregson, and this time he's like kind of fighting with one of the Skulkins, he's like kind of shaking him like, what the hell? So we're like, what the hell? And then Nash is like, well, we didn't know anything about a third gun. And Gregson's like, you never mentioned that when I was questioning you, And we're pressing enter everything, but all of a sudden the bailiff shows up and he's got the analysis results and there's blood on the coat. And we say, no, but this is McGilden's blood. And Van Zieks is like, so let me get this straight. You defended McGilden back then, you said he was innocent, and now that he's dead, you're saying, oh no, he really did it. You piece of crap lawyer, I mean, he doesn't say that.
You craven coward. Like,
what a jerk. So the jury again goes to like, okay, well, obviously Gina's guilty. So, but then all of a sudden the bailiff seems to know us, and I wrote, "Is it?"
I think that the jury actually like sets a guilty verdict this time, right?
Yeah, they're like, we don't need to hear the rest of this cross examination. Let's just we're ready to give our verdict.
So who did you think it was when the bailiff knew us?
Oh, yeah, I assumed it was Sherlock Holmes.
It was totally Holmes.
Oh, yeah, I was just waiting for the dramatic reveal.
You know what I had in my notes? Like, Hosonaga. I actually was like, they're doing a deep cut, and it's going to be Hosonaga here helping us out out of nowhere. But it is Holmes.
I hope Hosanaga's doing well.
I do, too. We haven't heard from him since...
Oh, we just see him at the end.
Oh, well.
During the credits.
Yeah. But so it's Holmes. He wants 5 minutes, and Gregson wants to wrap. Gregson's like, no, let's wrap this up. And Van Zieks kind of does this thing like 5 more minutes, and he's like, yeah, see, I bet this guy will be with me. He's like, no, he goes, we've spent this long. It would be boorish to end it 5 minutes early.
Churlish is the word he used, which I like.
Churlish?
Yeah.
He says, yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm down with churlish. So, what do you call it? Anyway, Sholmes has a parting gift from Susato, which is the cat flap-o-matic. which, as we remember, is Iris's invention that can make cat doors kind of instantly.
But while he's doing this, he's like, by the way, I asked for 5 minutes. I'm probably about to pass out like any second. I'm not sure I'll make 5 minutes, so I'm going to be quick. Like Susato gave this to me and said, hey, if things are in trouble, I need to give this to you.
Yeah. I did just have surgery last night and I'm not well, but I came here anyway.
Yeah,
no, I'm going to pass out any second.
And I dressed up like a bailiff. Yeah, and delivered bad news. I probably could have skipped that part. Whatever. So the good news there, well, the sort of good news there is like, well, okay, no, there's no good news because the judge is like, look, luckily for you, you were actually in the middle of cross-examination, like before when this happened. So we're going to look, I'm going to give you one piece of testimony and one piece of evidence to present, So, and that's it. Okay.
The other thing that Shulm says is that Susato said that she used it that night.
That's right.
Like, not only like here it is and she used it, which is like, kind of bad because it's tampering with the crime scene and it's sort of like we did it since she's our assistant, but not in this case. So it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I have like issues with how they frame it as tampering with the crime scene, but let's talk about this later.
Well, because, I guess, I know what you mean, yeah. So anyway, do we get new music when this is happening now, when we get our final, this is it, I have one shot at this kind of thing? Because it feels like I haven't heard it before.
Also, Sholmes actually does faint at this point.
Oh yeah, he does collapse, yeah.
Yeah.
And
in a very dramatic way.
Yes, which is kind of appropriate for him. Let's see here. So, what happens next is, of course, Graydon's statement is that he saw through the peephole. He saw this through the peephole, and we present the cat Flapomat because there was no peephole at the time of the shooting. Susato created it, meaning that, which Graydon's like, that is absolutely preposterous that somebody could just instantly make a peephole. What are you even talking about? And Iris is like, no, I made it. I can prove it. I just made a cat Flapomatic door right now. And Wagahai just walks through the little witness stand kind of thing, or the attorney stand. And the judge is like, could you please not make cat doors in the middle of trial?
Also, this is we're still in history, but this is a historical building. You can't just make cat doors.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
You need a permit for that. It has to go through a whole process with the historical building society.
But now we've got a cat in the court, so that's good.
It's such a great dramatic reveal, though. It's like, you can't create a peephole. Look, I just created one. Oh, look, here's a cat.
It's like, well, please don't do that. But he goes, okay, fine. Well, how do you prove it was created that night? And of course we can prove that because we have a stack of photos that was taken from the red-handed recorder. So, in fact, if you look at 1 a.m., there is no peephole into that door, and at 1:30 there is.
And do you remember last week I told you that I noticed another difference?
Yeah.
So I did notice that the first time the photos were presented.
Yeah, I went back when you said something, and I'm like, oh man, was there another difference? And I saw it then. I'm like, oh crap. Wasn't there before. So
it made this entire part very frustrating because I knew exactly what happened, but it took a long time to get for the game to get there.
So weird in an Ace Attorney game. No,
yeah.
But no, to be honest, I didn't. I was using a non-spoiler walkthrough, But I was kind of like, how the fuck can the cat Flapomatic fit into this? And so that's how though.
See, I figured it right as soon as I saw the cat Flapomatic. I was like, oh, of course. Right away, I was just like, oh, she must have made a hole in the door. There was no peephole. And also, it brings up a thing that we had raised earlier, was in the course of this trial, or during the examination even, when we were like, well, yeah, there's this room that was locked, but there's this giant hole that you could pass, that could fit a gun through, which it could because it can fit a cat through. That's been a flaw in the prosecution the whole time.
Rosella, when we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago, you said that it looked exactly like the Catomatic door.
Yeah. There you go. I knew it was huge because when they show you, there's that one scene when I think when we get the cut scene where they reveal that Gene is in there passed out with the gun, and that the pawnbroker's been shot, and that like it's just animated. Like the drawing is right there. It's just a big old square hole that you could easily fit a cat through.
This defeats Grayson. It also implicates Susato that she tampered with the crime scene, but like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the implication is not that she's like, I'm going to tamper with the crime scene. It's more like, I got to be able to see inside this locked door.
Yeah, she doesn't know there's a crime scene until she puts a hole in the door and sees that somebody's dead.
That's true.
What happened that they went into the pawn shop. Someone shot at Sholmes. Naruto went out to look for the shooters. And she was left there with Sholmes like bleeding out and worrying. And she noticed the door was locked, so she made the peephole to see what happened. Yeah, she didn't know it was a crime scene yet. She wanted to help more than anything.
And even if she had, though, she's like, it's not like she's doing it to cover up a crime. She's doing it to see what the hell's going on. You know what I mean?
Maybe she can help someone. Maybe someone's bleeding out and she can call for help.
Yeah. Like if you kick down a door to like save someone or escape, it's not like, what are you doing, tamper with that crime scene, jerk? You know what I mean? Like, no, that's not how this works.
Make sure they die. You can't save their life. You have to make sure they die because you didn't want to tamper with a crime scene.
Yeah, by preventing a crime, you have actually so
like somebody's like on the sidewalk dying, and you're like, somebody call a doctor. No, don't let him tamper with the crime scene.
Yeah. So Van Zieks is like, this doesn't prove Graydon's the killer, but then we point out, well, how did Graydon know there was a peephole then?
Yeah, like he was clearly lying, but not only was he lying, but he was like he was lying about information that he absolutely should not have. And this bothered me when he said it.
Yeah, he knew both about the peephole and about the blood on the coat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at this point, Gregson's like, I gotta go. And we're like, no. We accused, and I was like kind of stunned here because I didn't really know where they were going with this. But yeah, we accused Gregson of telling Graydon about the peephole and the blood in exchange for the music box discs. And Van Zieks is like, if this is true, Gregson should have the second disc right now, and we should search him. And we're like, yes. And Gregson's like, okay, search me. And Judge and Zeke's are like, wait a second here. Just so you know, you are accusing a member of Scotland Yard of criminal conspiracy, more or less. You know, I don't think they use those exact terms, but like, this is going to be dire for you if you're wrong.
Yeah, basically, if you're wrong about this, like, you are basically kicked out of the country. Like, you are no longer welcome here.
Yeah. This is going to be a huge international incident. And we're like, are you sure you want to search him?
By the way, they don't point this out, but the reason that Gregson knew about the blood on the coat was because that scene where he was in the prison cell right after we found the blood. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, he was just lurking.
Yeah, that's how he knew there was actually blood on the coat.
Yep.
Rude.
But with this time when we're pressing, we go, you know what? Don't search Gregson. Search Nash Skulkin. And Nash is like, what? Okay. And sure enough, he has the disc. And we realize Gregson slipped it into his pocket when he was like kind of arguing with him earlier.
Yeah. That really odd argument where he was like shaking him for no reason we could understand.
Yeah, and we point out that like Gregson is always very, very calm. And that was the only time that he like lost his temper at anything.
Yep.
It was very odd.
So Graydon still denies that they made any sort of deal, and Gregson kind of dances around it. But the jury still believes Gregson because he's a member of Scotland Yard, and, you know, he's like, you know, he says, oh, no, you know what? He dances around it, but he says something like, let my actions show that I was acting in the best interest of England. Like, totally like, yeah, I did it, but for good reasons, but I'm not saying that, you know?
Yeah, everything I did was for the pursuit of justice or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and the jury buys it, which I'm like, oh, come on. And so we get one more shot for evidence. So this time we get to accuse Gregson again and present the music box. And we ask to listen to both discs at the same time, to which Gregson objects. And this is awesome because we really let him have it. And basically, it's like either you admit that you did this deal with Graydon, or I'm playing the discs right now in court. And then I quoted this because I really fucking liked it, because this is Naruhodo stepping and says, let's not forget, Inspector, that you, a Scotland Yard officer, leaked confidential details to a witness, that you continue to lie to the court, And because by fair means or foul, you're determined to do your duty. Well, by fair means of foul, I'm prepared to do mine, which was like that, fuck yeah, like total moment. I was so into this. So he's still not into it. So we start playing both discs, and sure enough, it's Morse code. And Gregson's like, all right, just stop playing it. I'll admit it. All right, I told Graydon about the people and the bloodstains, and Graydon breaks his cane on the stand and calls Gregson a traitor and starts strangling him. This is awesome. Yeah.
It was fantastic. Like the whole dramatic build up to this, and it's been coming for so long, especially because, like you said, Naruto is so like, now he's like, he's feeling it, and he's just like, he's just moving the pieces around the chessboard wherever he wants, and he's just like, I know exactly what's happening here, and don't you tell me I don't.
Yeah, Van Zieks in the meantime also has, of course, poured himself a glass of wine and just appears to be just enjoying it for once. He even toasts to Naruhodo's, to uncovering the truth by fair means or foul, and he's just having a nice time.
I think he also implies at some point, Van Zieks, that Gregson is probably working under orders from Braveheart, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Strongheart, or
Strongheart.
Maelstrom.
Strongheart, yeah.
Strongheart, yeah, not Braveheart.
Same difference.
and it sounds like he doesn't like Strongheart very much, Van Zieks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Van Zieks is like, he has this persona of pursuing the truth of the trial no matter what happens, even if there's, even if the trial doesn't go his way, he wants the true victim, the true perpetrator to suffer. And he doesn't stand for any of this governmental involvement in this kind of stuff because it only would obscure the actual truth of the case. So he has no time for that governmental bullshit or politics.
Right. Good stuff. Let's see here. So basically, Graydon's out of options here. So this is where we get the sort of like the Phoenix Wright, like the culprit, like gives up and tells his sad story. It actually is pretty sad in my opinion, but they were pretty poor, the Graydons, and I think the mother left. I think, right? Is that what happened, Milverton?
Yeah, the mother was Graydon, but yeah, so the Milvertons were poor, and she's like, screw this, I'm out. I'm taking my maiden name, and I'm leaving to go off screen somewhere. Yeah.
And the father is like kind of like honest but poor and all that stuff, and Graydon's like, I don't want to like grow up like that, so I'm going to study hard and be a telegraph operator and sell secrets. But basically, he kind of realizes that he can make a lot of money with this little like with the information he has, like doing it as a communications officer, and he devises this whole scheme.
I think he said that McGill had approached him. It wasn't like his idea.
That's right, yeah. Oh, yeah, he studied to be... That's right. The fear of returning to the slum is what has him make the deal with McGilded, he said.
Yeah, like, it's really sad, because, like, he makes fine money as a communications officer. He can live comfortably, but he's just so terrified of being, of living in poverty that he's like, but I need to have infinity money instead.
Yeah. I can't lose this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that the scheme with the two discs... it's a way to deal with McGilded and ensure that it's dealt fairly, because, you can always sort of give him the one disc and then get payment and give him the second disc. And that his father is the one that he relies on to actually make the discs. As this is a skilled laborer who can do stuff like that.
Right. So the father kind of realizes something is up, because he like gives him like 10 guineas or whatever, and then or 200 guineas out of the 1,000 McGilded pays him,
Mm-hmm.
Would you realize that's a lot of money for this? So he wants to make the deal with McGilded.
Also, the music is obviously crap, so...
Right, yeah, exactly. Right. So, one note, my boy, you've lost your marbles. The father realizes something wrong, so he wants to make the deal on the omnibus. Graydon doesn't know exactly what happened, but it's obvious that McGilded killed his father. So Graydon seeks revenge and paid off like some of the officers in court to burn McGilded alive in the omnibus, which I did not expect. Now I'm still holding on to the fact that it's probably not McGilded in there, but like it definitely is not intended to be McGilded faking his own death. So who really knows, So that was neat. A neat little twist.
Yeah, if it stays that way through the next game, I'm going to be I was surprised, and I'm going to be shocked because it really felt like they were telegraphing that was a fake, because someone burns alive, you can't identify him at this time period, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, as far as this first game is concerned, he's the one who paid people to kill him right in front of a bunch of court officers.
Right. So what happens next, folks?
So one of the things is Van Zieks does point out that, like, Graydon essentially became the thing that he swore not to be. He essentially became McGilded of just paying people off to do his dirty work, which sucks, but that's your tragic life.
And not even rich, is it?
Yeah.
Didn't even say, but
So we finally get the not guilty verdict on Gina, with the asterisk of, hey, but we are going to have to, like, go convict you of the other crimes that you did, like the breaking and entering and the perjury. Those are
right. You still get confetti, but
so the not guilty in big letters, but, like, guilty in small letters.
She's not guilty of murder, but she is guilty of some other stuff.
This trial, you're not guilty. We're not saying that that's just going to be that, though.
Not guilty. ...
Mm.
And then juror number 5, our Morse code enthusiast, is like, hey, just now that the trial is over, we voted not guilty on anything. Just so you know, like, that wasn't Morse code. Like, that it was gibberish. Like, yes, it was 2 different tones. It sounded like Morse code, but it wasn't letters or numbers, or it wasn't information.
The problem is, she said, that wasn't Morse code, stop. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll stop asking. All right, anyway, so.
No, it does make sense, though. I mean, it would probably be encoded.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that you'd look at, like, a coded, like, letter and just be like, well, that's writing, but it's not, you can't communicate that way. It's like, it's not real Morse code, but yeah, it's technically just a code using Morse code.
If you wanted to be nitpicky too, I guess you could also kind of say, like, Graydon still has one last gambit to play then, which is like, no, like, play it, encode it. It's nothing. You know what I mean? But, like, anyway, so. But
regardless, we're not guilty. Everything's fine. And then we get this just incredibly intense scene. Everyone's gone. Like, we entirely lose the rest of the court, and it's just Naruhodo and Van Zieks. Like, he pours another glass of wine, and they just kind of talk about, like, Van Zieks basically just talks about how much he admires Naruhodo, and he's like, you read people really well, even though you're Japanese, which is, I don't know. He still has this whole thing where he's like, no, I've been burned before. Like, it is the most sexual tension that has been in this entire game. It is heavy.
Right.
Yeah, but he refers to, like, a Japanese person he used to know who he trusted and then was betrayed, which is the reason why he thinks all Japanese are like that.
And then he just refuses to elaborate.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't go into detail, but he wanted to, to try to figure out why he was burned by this person. He wanted to learn that, through Naruhodo. And it's like, oh, okay. But when he says that, it's almost like, yeah, I used to be in this relationship and I was hurt so bad. And I'm trying to relive it through you.
And yeah, he does flat out admit, like, yeah, no, the reason that I have been taking these cases is because you're the lawyer on them. Like, that's the only reason.
Yep.
Well, the other two, I presumably the first one with McGill that he actually took because he wanted to. He didn't know that we were going to be in it.
Mm-hmm. But then once our eyes met in the battlefield of court, he just couldn't get his mind off of us. And
oh my God. Or Maelstrom's, like, setting him up, like, in really, like, kind of pseudo racist way. Like, I know, Van Zieks. All right, anyway. So, he says something too, right? He's like, he doesn't want to tell you when that happened, but he's warning you that one day you'll know the answer, whether you like it or not, kind of thing.
Whew.
So,
and it feels very much like he's referring to the same kind of thing that has been referenced before, like this when we talked to Maelstrom and this other stuff, and when the other thing that was supposed to be involved in this trip, that there was something else going on.
Yeah.
And it seems like he's referring to that as well.
Yeah, whatever Kazuma needed to do while he was in England, it feels related, even though it's not explicitly stated to be.
Yeah.
So what happens? I'm being a little disingenuous because, to be honest, I thought I was near the end, but I still had some more to go. And then I have this other strategy guide that Jim gave me that kind of like reveals everything in the plot. So if somebody else wants to use their real deal notes, that's totally fine by me.
Okay. So yeah, we get out and we debrief with Gina and just talk about it. It's like, yeah, you're going to jail, but everything's fine and it's all good. And then Sholmes is standing in the back disguised as a bailiff and is like, you didn't notice that I was standing here. You're so silly. I am about to pass out. Anyway, and I was like, why is he even here?
Yeah, clearly he's not healed.
No, he is not well.
Then we find out that the seas are choppy and that you could, if we rush, we can go say goodbye to Susato.
Yeah, we have to take a train because it's not in London, obviously. London is not near the sea. But we can reach Susato before she has to leave.
And Sholmes has gotten for us an express train that he got by blackmailing someone. And so it'll be fine. No, and that's how he mentioned he got out of the hospital in the first place. He's like, yeah, I just knew certain secrets of the doctor, and when I said that they might come to light, he let me go. And then here he's like, it's like, yeah, but how are we going to get all the way to the coast before her boat leaves? And it's like, well, I know some certain secrets for this train operator, and I let him know that they might come to light unless he lets us go. It's like, Sholmes, you need to chill out.
Yeah, stop blackmailing people. No, we'll find another way.
Like, we named the wrong character Milverton, it seems. But regardless, we do we say goodbye to Gina, and it's very cute. And we take the train out to Dover, and we find Susato.
Yeah, we get there at 6 a.m.
Yeah,
very early.
And she's she's reading a book on a pier, and then as we're watching, she rears back to throw it into the sea. We're like, hey, what? And we tell her that the trial went well, that Gina got acquitted, and she's like, that's great. I'm the worst attorney's assistant in the entire world. And we're like, no, you're not, because apparently what she was about to throw out was the Encyclopedia of British Law.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, hey, you're good. The stuff that you gave us helped us solve the case. You're great. Also, like we talked about, come on, that's not really a crime. You're just trying to see if your friend is okay.
Yeah, but it turns out the reason that she didn't tell us that she did that was because she thought she had doubts about the British court system, and she thought maybe someone would try to make perjury again, so she led us a trap. Mm-hmm. So she didn't tell us about the people because she thought maybe someone is going to try to use that to prove something, and then we'll have a weapon against them.
And she didn't tell us because if she told us, then we would be implicated, and it would be our fault for tampering with the crime scene or whatever.
Yeah, and that's her actual crime, that she did something and didn't tell anyone about it, including the police.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why we arrest her, and that's trial 6. No, but
But so while we're having this nice conversation with Susato, Iris is off, and she's like, so gee? That's not a word. And we're all like, sorry, what? What did you just say? And she's like, yeah, no, I've just been, trying with some other, assuming it's encoded, right? I'm just trying some ciphers from what I wrote down when it played during.
When you played that little bit, I remembered. I just remembered it.
I thought she wrote it down.
Yeah, maybe she wrote it down.
But regardless,
but either way, just on this random thing that played in the courtroom, she's already decoding it.
Right, and she's like, yeah, no, I just decided to check it out with Japanese Morse code. I think is how she interpreted it, but asogi, that doesn't mean anything.
She points out a real thing that different languages have different Morse codes because they need different symbols. And there is a Japanese Morse code. And yeah, so she tried doing that, and she came up with asogi, which she thought was nonsense. but of course we know otherwise. And then Susato, who does know Japanese Morse code, takes the entire thing and figures out what it says. And it's just a little segment of the entire disc, because I didn't play everything, but it's a list of 4 names. The first one is Kei Asogi, which is Kazuma Asogi. And then there's an A Shin, which I don't think we know anything about.
Yeah, we don't know who that is.
There's a Tig Gregson, which we do know.
Gregson. It says out all in kana, and then it's like, oh yeah, Gregson.
Yep.
And then the final one is Jay Wilson,
Yep.
who Iris is very surprised to hear that name.
Yeah, and she freaks out, and then she's like, I mean, no, like there must be, like, Wilson's a very common last name, Jay's a very common first initial. I'm sure there's absolutely no relation. My dad's not involved in this, and he's fine. And like, you know, we look at Susato, we're like, I still don't want to say anything. Do you? No. It's like,
Yeah, we are still not going to tell her.
nope.
Jesus Christ. Talk about like crime. I mean, you know.
That's a little rude.
Why are you guys looking at each other? I was thinking of the flat capomatic. I actually said flat capomatic, which is a totally different device, but you know, it can work. Hey,
I got a flap that makes cats.
I need a flat cap fast. Hold on, friend.
And yeah, the right after the names, it says like, that is all for.
Yeah.
And then we don't know what the rest of the message is, so we don't know, like, you know, like, that is all for people involved in the crime to overthrow the state. We don't know. We don't know what the end of that sentence is. All 4 targets for assassination.
There's all 4 people I want to kiss that signed Van Zieks. Anyway.
This could also be another Holmes thing, though, because just from knowing things, there is a Holmes story called The Sign of the Four, which is like this pact that 4 guys make about treasure that, you know, sort of come, like, that is revealed later on that these were the 4, you know, when people start dying, that these were the 4 people who all swore to secrecy together. So I don't know if that exact plot line's going to come along, but it certainly is an allusion to that kind of thing of like 4 people who were involved in something in the past, and it's this big secret.
Well, at the very least, we know that 2 of them are dead, and one of them is Gregson, which would be wild, I think, if he were to die at this point. So it's interesting.
I was really, really shocked that he was working with Graydon, even though it like kind of ended up being not quite like working with him, but you know what I mean? Like during this trial,
He was like following orders from the government. That's what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he did like try to frame an innocent girl of murder by doing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of rude.
What a jerk. I was thinking, honestly, that it would turn out Graydon was actually like a spy for the British government, and you're kind of sort of like undoing this operation going on of some kind, you know what I mean? But like, no. No, I was starting to think that, though. Maybe that's why like Gregson and Graydon were like suddenly talking together like that, you know? Do
you have any theories about one name that we don't recognize?
Asian, you mean?
None. I mean, that could be the person that that Von Zieks, you know, feels betrayed by, because he was betrayed by a Japanese man. So that's the only plot hook that is empty that could hook into that name.
So the Japanese name of this yet unknown character is different. I can tell you what the last name is in Japanese. I don't know if that's going to help you or not.
Hit me.
But do you want to? Do you want me to?
I do.
Sure. I mean, if it's part of the actual first game, yeah, why not?
So in Japanese, it's still the initial is A, but the last name is Sasha.
Okay. Yep, that means nothing to me.
Yep.
No.
But now we know.
But Sasha is as much as Japanese name than Shin.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah, it could be, you know, like Eastern European or something.
So is that it?
Well, we get an anime cutscene.
It's such a good looking anime cutscene too. It's so fun when Sasato's taking off on the steamer ship. It's got that like pre-dawn kind of light, and it's just, you know, it's a very sweet sort of ending thing.
And Sholmes is playing his violin in the background, like.
Yep.
Wagahai's there. So we get like a cat running animation. That's good.
Yeah.
Always good.
But yes, Sato is on her way back to Japan. So she does live.
Yeah. And then we get the credit scenes, which are there's so much like they're a lot of fun.
Before the credit scene, we have like a little bit of final thing.
Oh right.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. We're gonna face charges.
Yeah.
It didn't take long.
Sean tells us that the train company is going to sue him because he tried to blackmail them to get us to this point. So he blamed...
And that express train, like, completely ruined the schedule of all of the trains in the entire country. Like, we absolutely... We're in trouble. And he blamed us for it.
Yeah, so Sean blamed Neruda for it, and that's where we get this...
Yeah, he's like, I explained everything and it was all your fault.
And that's where we get this thing that we always get at the end of Ace Attorney games where Neruda goes, well, there's one word I want to say to you. And then you press the button, it's objection. And then we get to go to the credits.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
And then what he says something. No, Iris tells you, don't worry. It's the thing you're best at, defending yourself in court.
Yeah.
You love defending yourself in court.
Yeah. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't like a nice defend yourself in court?
And then we get like the traditional Ace Attorney credits where we get like
epilogues for all the characters.
Yeah.
All the music boxes arrived for Sholmes.
He didn't remember that he ordered them though. They just arrived and didn't know why.
Yeah. So the whole apartment is filled with music boxes. So I've decided to sell them and say like, no, used by Sholmes to solve a very important case, and he's just making bank apparently. So good for him.
Good job, Rants Magazine.
Iris is busy working on a manuscript and she's stressed out because deadlines or whatever. Who else do we get?
We get everyone.
Hasanaga, who decided to stay on the boat, and then he caught a extremely suspicious Japanese national on the boat. Turns out it's a Seki, and apparently Wakahai had kittens, and he snuck them on board in his pockets. And of course he's in trouble for putting pets on the ship, and starts doing like full tears, like the poor, like the emoji style, or then like the anime style, full tears just pouring down his face.
Yeah. We get Gina, who is in jail, but she's not bored because Iris comes to visit every day.
Aww.
And Iris tells her all about Sean's investigation. Gina thinks that's interesting, and maybe solving crimes is a thing she could do in the future.
Sure.
We also get the Garadeb, because Joan is in jail, but apparently, John visits her every day, and they're doing well. Maybe they do better when she's behind bars, actually, because she can't physically assault him as much anymore.
Yeah.
I'm happy 19th century British jail is a lot better than I was led to believe, so, that's good.
We get the Beats, who are still in love with each other, so that's good.
Oh. Are they in jail?
They're not in jail.
They are not in jail.
Okay.
Though, the Skulkin brothers and Graydon appear to be in jail together, and this is the first time I noticed that like Graydon does a lot of poses. I actually don't think we mentioned that the Skulkins do a lot of posing.
They do.
And they kept trying to like get Gregson to do it with them. They're like, no, you're the third brother, and he's like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But like when they all do the pose together, and it's clear that like Graydon's pose is just kind of like a sideways version of their pose. It's really cute. They're adorable.
Yeah. They're basically like his backup dancers. And it's just so awesome when they do it all together. And they're reforming the band, as it were. Like they're gonna go back to, I guess, when eventually he gets out of prison for murder, they're gonna go back and take on the neighborhood with their milk scheme.
If he's not executed for treason.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then we end on a really cute picture of like all of Susato, Naruhodo, Iris, Sholmes, and Wagahai like posing in front of 221B. And Sholmes is doing the most bisexual lean I have ever seen in my life, like really onto Naruhodo.
And Naruhodo's like clasping his upper arm and pulling it into his cheek. And they're like Wagahai's like jumping onto the hat or something, and like Iris and Sasoro are like standing back normal, and the two of them are just all over each other.
Yeah, no, it's very cute. The cat is like playing with Naruhodo's hat, I guess. Like Naruhodo looks like he's wearing Gina's hat for some reason. But Wagahai's playing with it. It's very cute. And that finishes our like epilogue credits, and we move on to the credits proper,
which are very. I thought they were very nicely done. The long credit roll. So what you get is, well, in English it's not actually a credits roll. It's like the credits just appear on the screen, but you get Naruhodo walking from right to left, basically,
with Kazuma, until you get to the past all the characters that are involved.
Yeah, basically it's essentially showing every NPC is essentially just standing there, and we're passing them by, and so it shows all the NPCs from the first game, the Giselle Britt that we never saw again, and then all the ship's officers from the second case.
And then when we get there, then Kazuma stops and Naruhodo goes on by his own.
And Kazuma stops and turns to the camera like an NPC, because that's where his story ends.
Yeah.
Aww.
Oh god, it was an effective moment. I was not expecting effective emotional resonance in the credits.
But then after that, Susato joins Naruhodo in walking across the street, across the scene.
They briefly fall off screen so that we can put Kazuma's sword onto Naruhodo's model, so we can switch out the models, and then they keep moving forward.
And we go to the NPCs for the second and third case, and then Sholmes joins them. And we get the NPCs for the fourth case, and Iris joins them. And then the fifth case, and then they stop at the end at the Capcom logo.
Yeah, the four of them. So yeah, Sasoro doesn't drop off early. So the four of them go to Capcom and do a salute.
Yeah. In Japanese, of course, the credits are written in vertical script, which runs from right to left. So it's an actual credit scroll. So they're actually walking. The reason why they're walking from right to left is because they're walking along with the credits as they're scrolling.
Oh, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and it's a very classical look, and it's very nicely done. If you can look it up.
Yeah, it looks like banners hanging down. It's really gorgeous.
Yeah, and at the end, which was another very nice touch, is that most people don't know that, but Capcom has a second logo that they don't use very much. They have the regular logo that we all know, but then usually on the back of game boxes, they have a logo in katakana that's written kind of like in old-timey katakana font, and in the Japanese version they use that logo at the end here, which is very appropriate, and it looks very nice.
Aww.
In English they of course use the regular Capcom logo. It just fits very well with the entire atmosphere, the katakana logo that Capcom has. Yeah, if you can look that up on our YouTube videos, then definitely do, because the entire ending sequence just looks gorgeous in Japanese, even more than in English.
Oh, sure. So, and that is it for this game.
Yeah, that's the Great Ace Attorney: Adventures.
Well, shit.
Yeah, and maybe we should talk about this, because when this game was first released in Japan, they didn't announce that a second game was even coming until a year later.
I mean, you gotta. Well.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly wrote it as if they knew they were getting a sequel.
Yeah. But what happened was that they immediately did say that this was initially supposed to be one long game, and it had a troubled production, like a lot of Shutakumi's games seems to have. I don't know if you know that, but Ace Attorney 4, which was the last mainstream Ace Attorney game that he wrote.
Apollo Justice.
Yeah, Apollo Justice. I'm going. The Japanese titles are all just Gyakuten Saiban and a number. They don't have subtitles. They don't have anything. They're all Gyakuten Saiban 1 through 6. That's what they're called.
Okay.
All right.
So 4 was basically he was forced by Capcom to put Phoenix Wright in it. He didn't want to. He wanted to be just about this new character.
Man, what a like monkey's paw curse that Capcom got. It's like, all right, I'll put him in the game as like a washed up schlub who was disbarred for like, doing illegal things. Anyway, Apollo Justice is great. I love it.
Yeah, but I also kind of like it, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people think that's the low point of the series. And those
people are cowards.
Yeah. That's also why I think he stopped doing the mainstream Ace Attorney games, because of that experience. That he just got like executives meddling with his writing.
Which I think is really sad, because I thought Apollo Justice had a lot of interesting ideas that I just think people they didn't want to see a game without Phoenix Wright as the main character, and I think that just the innately change is bad mindset brought Apollo Justice down a lot, because I thought it was really good. I liked it a lot, but that is me.
I liked it better than 3 because I'm the weirdo who didn't like 3, but whatever.
Ooh.
I like 3. And then Ace Attorney versus Professor Layton also had a troubled production.
That took like twice as long as it was supposed to, and like Shu Takumi was never even supposed to be part of it. Yeah,
he had a lot of conflicts with Level 5 and Hino from there about what the story should be. And it's a neat game, but it is very, very... I don't know. The story just goes everywhere.
I mean, the story is very much a Professor Layton story. I think that it's clear that the trial segments, like the micro stories of the trial segments, feel very Ace Attorney, but the macro story of the entire game is very Professor Layton, which is fine.
Anyway, for this game, they pretty much immediately in interviews said that they had a much longer story in mind, but they basically ran out of budget. They were over budget by a lot. So they decided to like cut a lot of it and change some stuff, like move things around. So they have some kind of like satisfying conclusion. But they didn't know if they were going to get greenlit for the sequel when this game came out.
Oof.
It depended on sales. And then it took like a year for them to announce that the second game was actually coming. Now, when you play the second game, you realize very quickly that yes, much of the second game obviously was written at the time that the first game was. There are too many things that, like the first game has foreshadowing that are directly addressed in the second game in ways that you couldn't just like make it up later.
I mean, like we have entire characters, like the Shakespearean guy and his Popeye Chin friend, like that we just saw briefly, and then just never came up again. Like they weren't witnesses, they weren't anything. So like, why would you have done that?
Entire like modeled characters that appear for one scene and that's it.
Yeah, like why would you waste a budget on that?
And that causes so much in this game that's not resolved.
Yeah.
You have Strongheart. Strongheart is set up like to be like kind of a final boss character, and you basically see him twice, and that's it.
Yeah.
You get the entire Giselle Brett character who's set up to be something.
Yeah.
That's never resolved.
Oh, absolutely.
And just all of everything Kazuma cared about, whether or not Magilda's alive.
I do think that the one thing that did change it was probably this like 5th chapter that we had here. That was probably supposed to happen much later in the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and they moved it back to to have some kind of like satisfying conclusion to the first game.
Yeah, and like I would say that probably if this game just ended right here and there was never a second one, I would say it's not a satisfying conclusion because there's it's too heavily hinted.
No, it's absolutely not.
It's a satisfying rest point.
And when we play the second half, then the second part of this game resolves everything. There is not one plot point that is left unresolved. So,
it's a bold claim.
Yeah, I'm gonna be checking you on that.
No, it's an actual conclusion, and it's very much like a direct follow up to this one. It's like not. It's when you play both of them, they are really just one long game and not two.
So the one thing now I'm interested in, and I don't really want an answer on, is is the pacing messed up by making this Case 5 happen, quote unquote, early?
I don't think so. I think they probably ended up with a much longer story than he initially thought it would be, because they had to. I think as much as they cut from the first game, they probably didn't cut like an entire game length part of it. So they probably had to write a bunch of new stuff for the second one they didn't initially plan for.
So is there going to be a lot of annoying, you remember, right? McGill, the guy who was like, oh, tell me about him briefly again, just to refresh my memory? But
I'm a special character invented for the second game. That's Mr. Exposition Dump. Y'all ready to listen to my stories?
Gina Lestrade, what happened to her? I'll tell you. Or no, maybe that's like Susato comes back, I had to fill you in on everything you might have forgotten about. It's been
Oh, that would make sense.
I think the second game is better than the first one. I like it much more. I think it does a lot of neat things that you don't often see in Ace Attorney games. I mean, this game also does that with the third case and even this one, even the fifth one.
I feel, I don't know if now is an appropriate time to give some overarching impressions, since we're sort of done with a game, but we're sort of halfway through a game. But I'm going to give an overarching impression anyway, which is just that this game has I think just had a much higher quality of writing than a lot of the other Ace Attorney games. There's just so much more character to it, so much more, so many more callbacks, so many more things where you're like, oh, this logic is kind of dumb, but whatever, it's a video game. And then the video game goes, hey, that logic is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
You can't just do that. And it makes the entire game feel a lot more grounded, and that I feel like it makes it easier for you to care, because you're not constantly having to wave off a bunch of dumb video game bullshit.
Right. Outside of the cat flap-o-matic, but yeah.
I mean, they go into pretty detail about how the cat flap-o-matic works, I feel. Here's some very sharp blades you can look at in court.
And they even and obviously when they introduce a cat flap-o-matic, they're like, this is a dumb device. But, sometimes people invent dumb devices.
Yeah. No, it's exactly stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. No, it is fun. And it's neat, too, because it uses those things that you would normally gloss over or call ludonarrative dissonance in terms, you know what I mean? Things well, you wouldn't just accept, Sherlock Holmes' secret invention. They're like, we're not just going to accept the secret invention. It's yeah, I'm with Van Zieks on that one,
right?
So...
Also, a mark of the high quality of the writing is that it's using, someone else's source material, and it's criticizing it, but it never feels like it's in bad faith, and it never feels like it doesn't have an affection for the source material. It always feels like, hey, we like this stuff. We're Holmes fans, and we're going to have some fun with this. And we're also going to point out some logical inconsistencies that are really obvious if you read this stuff over and over again, like any fan would. But also, we're going to use that as a plot point and as a launching off point to what we're going to do, which is all in good faith and all in good fun. And that whole sort of attitude permeates through the reading of this. I
should also mention, too, it's a very unique interpretation of Holmes, which I think we might have talked about, just in terms of a lot of modern ones I feel are really similar, or even when you talk about not some young Sherlock Holmes and obviously House MD and the new Sherlock series, which I actually haven't watched, but it's usually sometimes he's edgy or they go into his drug addiction or he's very smart and everything. But this is a very silly kind of Sherlock Holmes. He's really likable in a fun way,
Yeah, and he clearly likes people too. Usually when they do the Sherlock Holmes thing, he's a misanthrope and he just he's too busy for anyone else. But here he's very just emotionally available. He just kind of acts like a puppy.
Yeah,
he's so dumb.
But he's great.
I love him.
There is, I don't know if I brought it up during our discussions here, but anyway, there's a 1980-something movie called Without a Clue, which is basically the premise is that Ben Kingsley plays Watson, and he's actually the person who solves crime. and he conceives of Holmes, this idea, this character of Sherlock Holmes, as a way to be able to solve crimes and publish these stories about the crimes that he's solving without, his reputation being, being as a doctor being compromised. And the whole, the basic idea of the whole movie is that, you have to, when you have this fake Sherlock Holmes, what do you call it? Michael Caine just is an actor hired to play Holmes, who actually gets into it too much, and they get involved with actual crimes together, and you have this incompetent actor Holmes and this genius hiding behind the scenes Watson, who also doesn't want to get too involved with this stuff, and it really feels like that movie is also an inspiration here, where they take this Holmes character who's sort of dramatic and over the top and wrong all the time. Maybe he knows it and maybe he doesn't, but that kind of while there's no direct correlation to what's happening here, the attitude is very similar, and the way that sort of the way they have this overly dramatic Holmes who sort of plays a role in this, and that kind of stuff. I felt it a lot during this, and so I think there's probably a whole bunch of different different Holmesian interpretations that they've tapped into here, and it feels like this is a game made by fans of not just the source material but other interpretations that have made over the years.
I want to check that out now.
Yeah, that movie sounds great.
Yeah, that sounds like a very good movie. But yeah, definitely, Shu Takumi is obviously a fan of the stories, the Holmes stories.
Mm-hmm.
And and this continues in the second game, I can tell you, and it also does some neat things with the Holmes mythos.
Speaking of what, I am curious. So I'm assuming that next up we're going to be on game 2, case 1, and we're going all the way through.
Yeah, which is once again a tutorial case because it is a new game and they had to have a tutorial case. I think it's about as long as the tutorial case was for this game, which means it's longer than your usual Ace Attorney tutorial case. But it's still probably just one session.
Yeah, I think we can do it.
It is also, I think, my favorite single chapter in any Ace Attorney game.
Whoa!
Okay.
So I'm really looking forward to it.
Man, I'm excited. This game has been great so far, and you're saying it's only going to get better, and I believe you. I'm
in. This is, I think, maybe my second favorite Ace Attorney game so far, outside of the very first one. So, yeah, cool, awesome. Well, unless there's anything else, I think the game is still afoot. So, take it easy, everybody.